Hello and welcome to the very first episode of B Movie Reviews. I am your host Rich, and I am excited to be doing movie reviews on some of the worst movies of all time. Why am I putting myself through this, you might ask? Well, because I'm a glutton for punishment, that's why. No, just kidding. I love movies, and especially some B movies, with the cheesy dialogue, terrible acting, and even cheaper visual effects. But let's face it, not all movies can be box office winners, but in many ways can become fan favorites. Those are some of the movies I want to review. So for the very first episode, I wanted to review a movie that embodies the B movie genre. That is why I am reviewing Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Warning, there will be spoilers ahead. So, Killer Klowns from Outer Space came out in May of 1988. I was a kid when this movie came out. Right? It's a sci-fi horror type movie. I guess it's kind of a horror movie. But it was only rated PG-13. But, of course, this was back in 1988. So, today's standards might be a little different. Actually, might be rated R. If you were to look at it in today's standards. So that just keep that in mind if you are wanting to show this to somebody who is younger. There are some definitely some gruesome images in there, but it's very comical in the way that people die and things like that. So it's kind of one of those, to each their own. You be the judge whether to show this to a younger person or not. But anyways, so what is this movie about, right? Well, okay. First and foremost, there's this small town, right, called Crescent Grove. And these killer clowns from outer space descend upon this town in their giant circus tent spaceship. And they start to round up all the humans in this town, and they capture them with these clown-like weapons, and they're encasing them in these cotton candy looking cocoons or these giant balloons. And why are they doing this, right? Well, because humans are the clown's food source. Okay. They'll show this in a later scene where a clown actually sticks a swizzle straw, like this big twirly swizzle straw looking thing, into one of the cotton candy sacks, and is just drinking the liquid remains that are in the cocoon. So there is this young couple, is Mike and Debbie, right? And they're the ones who actually see this stuff and find out that these things are capturing people. Well, they go to the police, and of course, the police don't believe them. Typical horror movie, right? Don't believe the young people. It's not until one of the police officers by the name of Dave actually sees firsthand the clowns capturing townspeople. And so now he tries to call the state police, and they have to try and, save as many people as possible too. But in the process of all this happening, Debbie gets kidnapped by the clowns. So Mike, Dave, and Rich and Paul, who own an ice cream truck and are friends of Mike, they all get together and go in this ice cream truck to an amusement park to try and rescue Debbie. Anyway, so they get there, they're sneaking around. Rich and Paul get separated and wind up finding these two clowns with ginormous tits. And it's a very comical movie, I'm telling you, okay? It's very comical. And Mike and Dave actually find Debbie, and they save her, and then they have to try and escape from the spaceship. Okay, and when it looked like all was at an end and the clowns were going to beat the living shit out of Dave, Debbie, and Mike with these like clown-like bats and clubs that had spikes on them, here come Rich and Paul to the rescue. They crash their ice cream truck through a wall, and the clowns think that this is like their leader or something because there's this giant clown on top of this ice cream truck. And Rich and Paul are convincing the clown somehow to leave their friends alone. And so all of a sudden, the next scene shows this giant, like Godzilla-like clown come out from the ceiling on like puppet strings, and all the clowns are obviously scared of this one, so they all scatter and run away, and he attacks the ice cream truck, in the process like blowing it up, right, with Rich and Paul still in the truck. So at the time you're thinking, well, they're dead, but hang on one sec, okay? So Dave kind of sacrifices himself to let Mike and Debbie try and escape. And in the process, Dave is the hero because apparently you can kill the clowns if you destroy their nose. So what Dave does is he's being manhandled like a rag doll by this Godzilla clown. He grabs the badge from his uniform and pops the clown's nose, destroying the clown, the giant Godzilla clown. And then the big explosion happens where Dave, Rich, and Paul all wind up in this very small clown car and get, projectiled back to where everyone is conveniently. And then, of course, they're alive. And Mike asks his buddies, Rich and Paul, how did you survive? I saw you get blown up in this truck. And they say, we hid in the freezer with the ice cream. So there you go, guys. If you're ever in an ice cream truck and it blows up, jump in the freezer because that could possibly save your life. The ridiculousness of the plot is just crazy. So the movie ends with the clowns leaving Earth, and before they leave Earth, they decide to throw a few pies down at Mike, Debbie, and Dave, hitting them in the face. So it's just kind of this comical ending to the whole movie. It's honestly, okay, so why do I love this movie? I do love this movie, okay? And this movie is definitely a cult classic now. It has a big fan base, but I loved this movie when I was a kid. I thought it was funny. I thought it was comical, but it really has grown and people really love this movie. And I actually watch this movie almost every year around Halloween because it's a goofy, silly, just cheesy B movie. And here's the thing. It was meant to be that way. It was made to be a B movie. So here's the difference between some movies. Okay. Some movies go about it, such as Killer Klowns from Outer Space. It's written, directed, and it's made in a way to be campy like that cheesy dialogue, the kind of actors that aren't the greatest, the storyline is kind of dumb. The idea of these grotesque looking clowns that anybody would even want to go around them. It's ridiculous. Okay. So this movie though was made to be a B movie. It didn't have a big budget. I think it only had like a $2 million budget. This was a very low budget movie, and by nature, most B movies are low budget. Okay. So the flip side of a B movie is if it's not made that way, then it becomes that, because the director and the writers and the actors are just not very good at what they do, and the movie becomes a kind of this terrible B movie, such as like movies like The Room or Plan 9 from Outer Space. You know, these movies like that were made, were they intended to try and make them good or at least decent, and failed miserably. This is the other side of B movies, and then of course the opposite of that is intentionally made bad. Okay, which Killer Klowns from Outer Space falls in that category. Okay, so like I said, this movie, low budget, most of them are $2 million, but it grossed at the box office, the worldwide box office, $43 million. And 15 of that was here in the United States when it opened. So, I mean, it didn't do great, but for a low budget movie that only cost $2 million, I mean, they made their money back and then some, you know? So, what did I kind of like about this movie, other than it's a kind of that nostalgia for me because I saw it so much growing up, and believe me, like I don't know if I said it, but I've seen this movie countless times. I may have said that, but I have. Okay, since I was a kid growing up, like I said, I see this movie almost every year during Halloween because it's just a goofy movie to watch. But some of the things I liked, especially were like the clown costumes. I think they did a great job in this area. If they were going to spend money somewhere, this is the area to spend it, because the clowns were so much on screen and you saw them so much that they needed to have some type of, you know, presence on screen. So they had to look good. And by good, I mean disgusting. Okay. They were kind of these grotesque, disgusting, comical looking clowns. And I think the costumes did really well, because at the same time that they were scary and gross looking, they were very comical as well. You know, they had these giant big heads, the white painted face with the red lips and red bulbous noses. And of course, most of them had like green or red hair or something like that. You know, so, and they were giant. Like these clowns, most of them, with the exception of the Pee-wee one, they were all pretty much big, giant clowns, super strong. They had the big clown shoes on. They had the clown outfits on. So I think they did a really good job when it came to the costumes. What else did I like about this movie? It is, I wouldn't say it's really a horror movie. It's more of like a horror comedy, if I want to classify it. And by that, I mean like the clown weapons that they use. So like they had like acid pies and cotton candy cocoons and, you know, popcorn guns and balloon animals that were like bloodhounds. You know, I mean, this is a very comical movie. You know, it was a goofy movie. So I absolutely love it. And the other one was the theme song. So the theme song that was done by the Dickies, I think this was awesome. You saw this a lot during this time period where artists would make a song just for a movie. You see in like Back to the Future, this one where, you know, they get with an artist and the artist will write a song, or somebody will write a song and the artist will sing it for the movie, and it goes on to the movie score. And I think that they did a pretty good job with it. It's a pretty awesome theme song. You know, I definitely like it. Now, I say I like, but is there anything I didn't like about this movie? The only thing I can really say, and keep in mind, okay, this is a B movie. I can't really ding B movies on plot points or acting or, you know, the way it's written. or the visual effects of the movie, because by nature these things are going to be flawed in a B movie. So I have to look for other different angles, and maybe certain plot points I can not like. And one of the ones I didn't like was Dave trying to steal Mike's girlfriend, Debbie, through the whole movie. This is kind of the premises. You know, he's really a scumbag. No, I didn't really care for this angle. So apparently Dave and Debbie, she's the female lead. Dave is I guess he's going to be the male lead, and Mike is, I guess, a kind of more supporting lead. So they used to date, right? Dave and Debbie used to date. And then now she's going out with Mike. And this makes for a really awkward kind of three-way relationship. I don't know. But in the end, it kind of seems like Dave stole Debbie from Mike. And Mike is okay with it. So I don't know. I didn't think it worked. I think it would have worked better if Dave and Debbie were brother and sister, and Dave was Debbie's older brother or something, because it could have been more comical when he finds out that Mike and Debbie were on top of the hill, or at kind of like a makeout point, or something like that, as these young people call it now. I think that would have been more comical, because he really could have been like the overprotective brother or something like that. But it is what it is, and you know what? That's the only thing I can really say I didn't care for. So I had a few other things that I really did like about this movie. Like, some of my favorite scenes of this movie were like the T-Rex shadow puppet that snatches up a group of people. So there's this clown, right? And it looks like he just gets off a bus or something like that. And there's a group of people there waiting for a bus, or just got off a bus or something like that. And he starts doing these shadow puppets on the wall, and the group of people, with the exception of one jerk, is very impressed, because he's doing these really elaborate shadow puppets, like things that you would never be able to probably do, and everyone's really impressed. And then all of a sudden he gets this like diabolical grin and laugh, and he changes it to this giant T-Rex shadow puppet, and everyone's looking at it in amazement at first. And then all of a sudden this T-Rex goes down and snatches these people up, and everyone is like screaming like, "Oh my God." It's like, yeah, it's a dang killer clown from outer space. What do you expect? So he snatches them up, and then he puts them in this bag of popcorn, which I'm guessing they became that, or maybe they use them to feed the popcorn, because the popcorn apparently are like the larva or infant stage of the clowns. And here's why I say that, because in my next favorite scene was the popcorn bathroom scene, where Debbie is attacked by like these snake clown looking creatures that were popcorn. Let me backtrack. So when Mike and Debbie got on this ship for the first time, they saw this circus tent looking thing, right? And they said, "Oh, let's go in there." And I think Mike thinks it's a cotton candy factory, and Debbie is the only real sensible person saying, "Let's get the hell out of here." And of course, Mike, being the typical guy in a horror movie, is like, "Oh, let's stay, let's go explore this weird thing that we've never seen before." So when they're on this ship, they see this clowns, and they run out. They're running out, and this clown shoots this popcorn gun at them, right? And this popcorn gets all covered on them. Well, that popcorn sticks to Debbie, and later on when she's at home, she is taking a shower, which they don't show anything, so it's not why it's one of my favorite scenes. They don't really show anything, so she's taking a shower, but there's still this popcorn left on the floor. And the popcorn, you see it start to like crawl around and stuff. And she throws some of it into her hamper. And I guess some of it winded up getting into her medicine cabinet, and more got into her toilet. So she gets out of the bathroom and she's all dressed and she gets ready to throw her dirty clothes into the hamper. And apparently these two clown snake looking things jump out of the hamper and they're trying to attack her and bite her. And then all of a sudden, two more come out from the medicine cabinet and start like chomping down on her shoulders. And she uses like some type like what is it, hairspray or something like that, and she sprays it in the eyes of these clown snake things. And then all of a sudden this like giant mamba jamba comes out from the toilet, and I don't know why he was the biggest one. Maybe he had a lot to eat in there or something, but I don't know why this one was the biggest one, but it was, and it lunges at her, and then she like falls back into the tub, and she grabs the shower nozzle and she jams it in the clown snake's mouth and turns on the water, and she runs out of there. And then it gets even better because she runs out and all of a sudden she hears like a knock at the door, and she hears Mike's voice. And so she's thinking, oh, great, Mike's here. And she opens the door and it's a fucking clown. And she's like, no, it's a fucking clown. So she closes the door, runs to the window and opens it up. And there are these fucking clowns down there with one of those fireman trampoline, like those catch things, to catch her, of course. It's just so comical. It's hilarious. The way they do this, but she is generally terrified, throughout the whole scene. But for us, it is absolutely hilarious. So one of my other favorite scenes was at the amusement park, and it's with the night watchman, right? Poor bastard. So he's just there and he's getting ready to fucking say, I'm gonna eat my fucking sandwich here that my wife probably made for me. And these fucking clowns come up, right? And they're in they had to do a clown car bit. And I think that's the only reason they did this scene. So all these clowns pile out of this little car, right? And they kind of surround this night watchman. He's like, hey guys, park is closed, you gotta leave. And then they're all holding these pies, and he goes, now boys, what are you gonna do with those pies? And they start nailing the shit out of him with these pies, just bombarding him with these pies, and he's just standing there taking it, apparently, because that's what any of us would do if somebody threw something at us, right? We would just stand still and take it. Well, apparently these pies are very special pies. They're acid pies, because after they pile on all this shit onto him, it's just this big molting, melted looking thing. And one of the kind of the little, I don't know why I just call him Pee-wee. I forgot what his real name is. But he goes over there and he places this giant cherry on top of it, like the cherry on top. So, I mean, that's funny, And then, of course, later on, when Dave, Mike, Paul, and Rich and Paul get there, they come in, they look at it and say, wow, what is this? And they, it looks like a melted sundae. And Dave goes, yeah, but this isn't one you want to eat. And they see like the night watchman's skeleton underneath this thing. And so they're like, geez, wow. Like they're taking it so incredibly well, which is, kind of weird. But anyways, those are just some of my favorite scenes from the movie. I thought it was pretty awesome. Anyway, so I just want to now give kind of my final thoughts about this movie. What did I think about it? Well, I think Killer Klowns from Outer Space, it's a fun and silly B movie. And it has become like this beloved favorite of many people. Lots of people love this movie, including myself. It has like this killer theme song, and like those costumes on the aliens were pretty cool. The whole concept that these aliens are clowns and they use like these clown type devices to capture or kill people. I think that's pretty original. I think it's pretty funny. And again, this movie was meant to be a B movie. It was meant to be a cheesy, campy type movie. So what do I rate Killer Klowns from Outer Space? And I do a rating between 1 and 5. I'm going to give it a 4. So it was great. So 5 would be like excellent. 4 would be great. 3 would be good. 2 would be okay. And 1 would be total horseshit. I give it a 4. I think it was a great B movie. I think it was actually just a pretty good movie. If you want to watch a stupid sci-fi horror movie, watch Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Okay, guys. Well, I just want to thank everyone for listening to the very first episode of B Movie Reviews, a podcast dedicated to the review of some of cinema's most cheesy and corny movies ever made. I look forward to reviewing many more B movies in the soon to near future. Thank you again, and take care.